first scheduled broadcast as far as HAPS is concerned, and I believe also for Twitch and for the others. To introduce myself to get things started, I am licensed as a marriage and family therapist in the states of Hawaii and Arizona, and for telehealth in Florida. I am doing this as an artist and as a, how do you want to say, icebreaker, safe emotional experience because you're at home. But I do want to give a medical disclaimer, as we all have to, in the sense that the information is intended as educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Everything that I present is general information and is for those purposes only. I make no representation, assume no responsibility for the accuracy of information contained on this or available through this website or through my presentation, and such information is always subject to change without notice. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained from or through this presentation with other sources and review all information regarding any medical condition or treatment with your physician or therapist. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking medical treatment because of something you have read or accessed through the internet. So before we start, or as part of the experience, I would like to start with everyone just taking a deep breath in and allow yourself to get settled for this brief experience, running anywhere from probably 20 to 25 minutes. But everything that you will access or experience during this brief time is meant for your higher good and to increase your knowledge of yourself and perhaps information you may not be aware of. Nothing in this should be of concern. It is information that will delight you, amuse you, and take you to the next step, whatever that may be. Everything said right now, if you're listening, background noises just serve to take you deeper into a self-reflective mode. We'll go ahead and ask you to get a piece of paper and a pencil or other art supplies that you may feel drawn to at this time. This is not an art exercise, and being a quote unquote professional artist may actually hinder you. We're looking to contact and be aware of symbols and experiences and knowledge that are beyond an artist's traditional skills. I'm going to, in this experience, and remind you to again, just focus from like the top of your head down through your neck and your spine, feeling grounded, feeling comfortable. Outside sensations of cool or warmth only pique your interest, but they quickly fade away. I'm going to, in this experience, present a number of items that you will draw on your piece of paper. You will just go with what seems right. As I said, there's no artistic effort that is needed in this. It's more about whatever I say to you, maybe taking notes on the side to the questions that I may ask you. This will all become more understandable as we begin and start the experience. So the very first item, as I said, this experience is referenced as, I call it the cube. This is something that I learned, I discovered in kind of what's the word, kind of tweaked for my own use, probably about two decades at least ago. There is a book, I can't remember who it's by, but if you're interested, you could go find it afterwards on Amazon. But it's really just meant as another kind of explanation. It was not designed as an art therapy experience or a therapy experience. It was more designed as I was working with some highly resistant teenagers and youths living in group homes. And so this was something I kind of developed to kind of break the ice and kind of engage them. Most would, pretty easier to kind of draw something or even half-ass do something than to talk with a therapist, right? Kids were not usually eager to speak with me or to talk about the things that ended them up in a group home that was dealing with alcohol and substance abuse issues, foster issues, their parents, their family. Anyway, this is something that, as I said, is not meant as a psychological tool. Generally speaking, things like this would be considered a projective assessment where it's not so much what the person draw or what they drew, but it's more about the answers that they give and what it means to them. That being said, um, I have an intention to present something like this because I have so many of them. I'm not sure how they'll translate to being done via live stream or on the internet. And my voice is not what it used to be. This is because I always feel a disclaimer I have to give is that I had neck surgery in January and my voice is not completely recovered. And who knows if it ever will. So I'm just trying to embrace that and go with it. So my intention is to do something like this every Saturday morning. I may, in the interest of time, actually start earlier. I have a yoga class that I'm going to need to end the stream and, get prepared and drive to the yoga class. It's a beautiful class. It's on the beach. Uh, it's a great joy. And I actually may stream from there after so you can see the beautiful beach here in Hawaii. And I may do that just as I'd like to get more comfortable streaming and speaking aloud. I watch a lot of wonderful art streamers on YouTube, not on YouTube, excuse me, on Twitch. And I'm finding the community on HAPS is just outstanding as far as support and engaging with streamers, which I think helps. Instead of just speaking to an empty stream, which as far as I know I am right now, because I haven't quite figured out how to do the chat and all these other things. So the first thing that we're going to do is that your piece of paper we will consider is a desert environment. Just, you don't have to draw anything. You can draw a horizon if you want. There's no need to do anything, but I just want you in your mind's eye to have, it's best actually in a sense to go ahead and keep your eyes closed as all this comes together and to not start drawing or drawing the completed picture until I've presented the several items. So the first item is the desert, is your environment and your surroundings. No need to draw it unless you want to. And then the next thing I'm going to ask you to imagine in this environment, in this mind's eye picture, is a cube. Now, some people will say, a cube, they think everyone will draw the same cube or that everyone will envision the same cube. This is not true. It just doesn't work that way. We each have our own personal experience of a cube. The cube, I want you to notice, where is it in this mind's eye? Noticing how large it is or how small it is. Where is it in the picture? Is it near? Is it in the foreground, the background? What is it made of? How large is it? Is it doing anything? So we have our first item in your mind's eye picture. And as I said, I don't exactly encourage you to draw it quite yet. We want to just kind of get a sense of there's this cube. The next item that I'm going to ask you to put into this picture, this mind's eye picture, is a ladder. Once again, people think a ladder, well, there's only one type of ladder. No, we all know, if you think about it, there is more than one type of ladder. So I want you to place this ladder somewhere in your environment, and I want you to notice, where is it in relation to the cube? Where is it in relation to the background or the foreground? What is your ladder made of? What is it doing? Is it laying down? Is it straight up? Is it leaning? Just take note. I don't want to provide too many prompts because it's your ladder and it is in your mind's eye picture. Moving on, the next item is a flower or flowers. Imagine in this picture where we have the cube, we have the desert environment, we have a ladder, and now we are imagining that there is either a single flower or there is a multitude of flowers or types of flowers. What type of flowers are they? Do you know what type of flower they are? Are they, what color or colors are the flowers? Where are the flowers in relation to the cube and the ladder? How is this mind's eye picture coming together with a cube, a ladder, and flowers? The next item in this mind's eye picture that I'm going to ask you to put into your picture is a horse. Notice what color the horse is, what type of horse it is, how big or how small is the horse. Where is the horse in relation to the flowers and the ladder and the cube and your desert environment? Is the horse doing anything? Is it, what is, describe with your own words and your own thoughts what you see with the horse and the cube and the flower and what else? Oh, I'm just trying to look to see if I can figure out anything on my little broadcast studio with HAPS, which is sad to say. It's just too hard for me to understand right now. I know that I'm not using my camera because I want to use the presentation that I had. But I know later when I saw another one I did, you could see everything I thought I wasn't showing on the screen was showing on the screen. Anyway, keep your relaxed state, your curiosity. And now we still have the desert with the cube and the ladder and the flowers and a horse. And now for this final item, I'm going to invite you to put in, there is a storm. What sort of storm is it? Is the storm coming or is the storm going? How are, I think I finally got it to do what I thought I wanted to do. Okay, so we have the cube, the ladder, the flowers, and now a storm. And you're noticing, what is the horse doing because of the storm? Where's the storm going? What about the flowers? What about the ladder and the cube? Does this storm have any effect on the cube or on the environment? What sort of feeling comes with this storm? Is there concern? Noticing all of the things that now you've put together in your mind's eye and this picture, I would invite you to open your eyes now and to draw this environment, this picture that I have given you, different things to put into this mind's eye picture. And just noting, as I said, any notes to yourself that you'll want to review these when I tell you kind of the meaning of these different things. So note for yourself, what is your cube made of? Describe it in your own words, large or small, material. Is it stationary? What is it doing? Then we had our ladder. Where is that? Once again, what is it made of? How would you describe your ladder? What strikes you about your ladder? What is meaningful to you about your ladder? Then we have our flowers. I want you to notice, as again, the color or colors, how many they are, where are they, drawing them in the picture with your cube and your ladder, the flowers, and any notes to yourself about what those flowers, what strikes you about them, and how you drew them or why you drew them the way you did. And then the next one we have the horse, and noticing, making notes to yourself as you draw the horse. Once again, it's not an artist exercise. It's more of a emotional experience and growth experience we're looking for now, not your drawing skills in drawing a horse. More important to know what the type of horse it is, or is it what color it is, what it's doing in your picture, and how it is in relation to the cube and the ladder and the flowers, as I've said these things a number of times. And after the horse, we have the storm, increasing or not increasing, putting the storm into your picture if you want to, or just taking note to yourself. Some people say the storm is on its way. Maybe there's only some clouds, maybe there's no clouds. Some people, is after the storm. It's only what makes sense to you and in your drawing, how you want it to be. Okay. So we're at about 21 minutes now or so. And so I'm going to give you about a minute in silence, just for you to kind of write your notes down and everything. And I'm going to see, I don't think I know how on the HAPS one, how to have the music. I did on Stream Elements, but I don't know how to use Stream Elements with HAPS quite yet. So you are all very forgiving of me, I know, because it's a very supportive environment. And people who have Stream know that the first ones probably don't go as well as they would like. So I'm going to give you this 1 minute. Well, isn't that nice? It looks like I have either 37 in the past or 37 right now. You still got about 30 seconds more. No, didn't mean to do that. There. Well, maybe I am figuring this out. Okay. So, although this experience may not be the easiest to do on HAPS or streaming, eventually I think it will. Eventually, I think that when now we come to this part and I ask questions, or I can understand or see where the chat box is, then I can have questions. People will ask questions about it, or they'll share what things they drew or what they felt about the experience, because it can be fun and entertaining. And while people may expose something about themselves that, you know, um, they may be a little uncomfortable with. It's a little bit of a risk, but it's all in, fun, but also it can be amusing. And that's why I gave the disclaimer, because if anything upsets you or makes you curious, I would suggest you take it to a therapist and you describe the type of experience you had, and perhaps you explore the imagery that kind of rattled you. Okay, so I'll give you the reasoning behind some of this. That we start with, I used to do this exercise just with not telling about the desert. But then I remembered that actually the desert is a very good background for an experience, even if you're prompting someone with something already that they know. You're not just starting with a totally blank screen. So the desert is often can be seen as a symbol or a metaphor of life itself, because in the desert we see everything. We see dryness and drying up and death, the ending of life. It's a very harsh environment, but we also see that there's new possibilities, there's new blossoms. Anyone who's lived in the Southwest knows how the desert comes alive in spring after the rain, and the spring flowers are beautiful, all different colors. And in this sense, so the environment, however you would consider if it was harsh or ugly or beautiful, it's just something to keep in track for yourself, is that's kind of like a view or an experience of life that you have. Now, the first item is the one that is predominantly, I call this experience the cube, because so the cube in this experience is a representation, or it represents you yourself. So how you describe your cube is actually things that you probably hold dear about yourself, or the way you would like to envision yourself. It gets kind of challenging to kind of do this to no one. I'm used to working with people on what that cube is to them. For example, people are like, well, it's a cube. I'm like, okay, well, what's it made of? And they'll be like, well, it's plastic. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Is it solid plastic? Is it an empty or hollow cube? And it's interesting because you see different people at different stages of life give different answers as to what their cube is made of, or like. Some people have said that it's an ice cube, because that's the first cube they think of. Some people have had the cube floating above the ground. Some have had it be huge, huge, huge cube is what they would describe. It takes up the whole thing. Um, this usually tells me that they have, either a big sense of self, may or may not go towards narcissism. It may just be a normal sort of teenage stage of life. It could be that in their life right now that they themselves are most important. I think people who would come to this and, like I say that they're interested in who they are as an artist, or where they're going as an artist. Their cubes might be a bit larger than, say, someone else who was just coming into my office or working with me. But the cube is perhaps the most interesting part. So think to yourself how you described it. And also offline, if you want to email me any questions about your cube, or if you want to send a picture of your cube, I can provide you my email or my phone number. If you want to text me the picture, it can be easier. My email is actually Crystal, CRYSTAL, at crystalcleararts.com. And I would encourage you to do that. I always enjoy seeing people's drawings of their cubes and this experience. Now then, the next item was the ladder. Now we want to know, where is the ladder? Is the ladder leaning on the cube, or is it flat, or is it way in the distance? Is it worn out? What's it made of? Is it aluminum? Is it pretty perfunctory, just its ladder? However you describe it. And the ladder is meant to reference our friends and our support system. Some people find that it's an old, worn ladder that is either right next to the cube, or perhaps the ladder is leaning on the cube, which usually means that, my interpretation of it would be is that you're usually the person that friends rely upon. People in your support rely upon you a great deal. Other people, if it's aluminum and it's perfunctory, perhaps it might mean that you see your friends, however you would describe that, sort of that they're necessary, but they're always there, or you need something sturdy, so they're aluminum. Perhaps it's a really tall one because, just kind of go with your own interpretation. But at the bottom line, I like to share that the ladder represents friends. In the next part of the picture, I've asked you to put in the flowers. Now, the flowers, originally, there was two meanings that were kind of given to it. And I have found that that is true. It usually it can depend on where the person is in their life. And sometimes it represents the same thing. And that is, okay, I'll get what it is. The flowers generally represent either hopes and dreams, or it represents children. I know it's kind of odd that it can mean both things, but whatever one of those fits the best for you is the one that you want to kind of go with and run. I'll share that when I first did this one, it was, I think, a couple of years before I had children, or a year before I had children, years, and also at a time when I was working with, like I said, foster youth, foster teens, and I greatly enjoyed the work. There were 2 boys' homes, 1 girls' home, group home, and I was the clinical director for this, and was a part of these kids' lives. And I learned so much about being a teenager, and I learned much about the foster system and illegal aliens, in a sense, too. Kids that were, first generation from the south of the border. And I learned a great deal about gangs and the sign and the importance of gangs to these kids, and also the trouble, of course, that it meant for generations. We had multi-generational kids that had gone in. We were a place they usually went instead of to juvenile hall. Juvenile hall was the next one. A lot of these kids had not made it in regular foster care homes. They had reactive attachment disorder. They had oppositional defiant disorders. Some of them had some serious mental health issues. Some of them had bipolar. I mean, just it goes on and on. I saw the whole gamut. But anyhow, the part I'm kind of drifting off here on about is that the time that I drew my flower, my cube, um, it was interesting because I said in my environment, like I said, I grew up in the Southwest, and my whole entire sort of desert field was just filled with flowers, wildflowers, which is so cute. And they were all different colors, and they added beauty to my picture, and they surrounded my cube was surrounded by these children. And at the sense, my goal in life had always been to become a mother. And part of why I became a therapist was because I wanted to become a very good mother and good wife. And I wanted to be nurturing and supportive, disciplined. I wanted to be a really good mom. And in some sense, being a therapist to these group home kids, I was kind of like a therapy, what we would call, right, a good mom. Sometimes I was not a good mom to them. They didn't like what I would have to say, but I was a mother type figure for them. And in contrast to what they usually had grown up with, I was a mother who was really all about them. I wasn't the mother who had a drug or alcohol problem. or who'd ended up in jail, who'd run off with, the wrong man, who'd put the kids in danger, etc. So to me, flowers in that my cube picture actually did represent both for me. It represented children and it represented my hopes and dreams. I did go on to foster a young girl. I did have my one son by the end of that. I had one son. I fostered a little girl for different reasons, did not choose to adopt her. But uh, the warmth and the mothering in me really increased a great deal during that experience. And I love that picture of my cube with so many children because I like to think, and my experience tells me, that there were teenagers, girls and boys through that time that they may not even remember my name. They may not remember, but a seed may have been planted, the seed of what I could see in each of them, like a better life, better choices, that they could really have a wonderful life with the choices and support that they may have. So we went through the ladder and the flowers, and now we come to the horse. And the horse can, of course, be, depending on where you are, it can be, it's always interesting. So the horse in this represents your lover, or some people will have more than one horse, and that would be lovers, right? Um, Married people may see it as as an old nag, haha. They may see it as an old, worn out horse, better days. The way they describe it is the way they're either describing their spouse, because I've done this with older people. Let's see, I say mature now, not older. I've also done it with young kids. And even though they don't have lovers, I'm trying to think how we interpret it. For little kids, it doesn't quite work as well. But probably for my group right here who may watch or be listening or go back and listen to this, it would be your lover, uh, your significant other. Why also, I'll share mine because it was amusing at the time too, is that in my picture, and I'll tell you what the final part actually will make more sense, but my horse was this beautiful stallion. It was this, and I'm not sure if it was a white or a black stallion, but it was this beautiful, shiny, sleek, gorgeous. I keep coming up with gorgeous. This gorgeous wild stallion, right? And my stallion was running sort of back and forth in my picture because I had like a moving picture in mind, and he was in the background, and he would run to the left, and then he would run to the right, and then he would run to the left, and then he'd come up near my cube, he'd circle my cube, and then he'd go off. Pretty funny because my experience with men has not been the best. We'll just say that. It's not been the best experience for me and my choices, as far as I do have tended to go towards more of the wilder, artistic, passionate men who don't often want to settle down and commit and have the day-to-day problem solving that life and marriage really require. So I would be interested how you described your horse, and if it surprised you or if it fit with your thinking what it would be. Now, as I said, so the final part, we had the storm. And the storm in this picture is meant to represent trouble or troubles, problems that you may have faced or that you are facing right now. Where are you going is part of, I entitled this presentation. So, is the storm coming? Is it right overhead of you? Are there problems right now that are just raining down upon you? Is lightning hitting your cube? Did it start a fire? Is the wind? But the wind is there. Maybe it's hurricane winds, but you, the cube, are still standing. Your cube is solid. Or no matter how your cube is, maybe there's some element that allowed it to withstand all of the wind and the storm. Is the storm leaving. You've already made it through, but it had some it took care of the horse or the ladder, the friends. Maybe it knocked down your ladder. Has that happened to you? Is that a worry of yours that when you have troubles that your support, your friends fall away? Or do they stand right next to you and withstand a storm? So the storm is problems and troubles, and I think I've kind of covered that. Now, as an amusing one, I'll tell you mine, because this is where I started. I just enjoyed this exercise, and I could also, depending on who I was talking with, I could share as I'm sharing now. So I grew up in Arizona in the desert, and I grew up there, and I hated almost every day of my life in Arizona. I am a beach girl. I'm an ocean girl. I am an island girl in heart. And when I was little, we went to Santa Monica because it's so close, and I came alive. I was like 5 or 6. And I just thought California was a magical place. You know, you could go to Disneyland, you could go to the beach, you could go to Knott's Berry Farm, you could go to SeaWorld. I mean, I thought, God, people who live in California were the luckiest in the world. But I grew up in Arizona, and I dealt with the 112, 113, 115, etc. degrees of summer heat. And yes, I had fun. We had a swimming pool, and I would jump in the swimming pool and then dry off as I ran around. And we had plums by our tree, and I have some good memories. We would run around. We had a big backyard, but I was always miserably hot. I never liked the hot. The heat is, of course, the joke. It's a dry heat. It's a stifling heat you can't breathe in. I think it's ugly. I don't like the desert. However, in the summertime, we would have what was called monsoon season. And I, as a little girl, even, and I stayed in Arizona. I guess I left for college like 18 or so. I did come back for a short time. Um, the the desert, the what do they call the desert storms, the monsoons are actually, I loved them as a kid because the air is literally, it feels like electricity is in the air. It's very staticky, and there's like an agitated excitement, like it's coming or it's not coming. There's lightning, and then you count to see the sound of the thunder. And monsoons are just beautiful. So I described the storm, the troubles in my life. This is so funny to me. I described it as a beautiful storm, a beautiful monsoon with strong winds and lightning, excitement that lit up the environment. And I described it further, but actually, this was humorous to me. Why? Also, because I'm a therapist and people bring me their problems. And I know that problems bring opportunity for growth and challenges. And so I don't really have a connotation of trouble in my life as being something really, bad and horrific. Of course, there are horrific things that I hear about. Just yesterday, I heard some very sad and bad stories. The part that's bad and horrific is only part of the story. There are strengths that come from becoming a survivor, becoming a thriver, people who take it and run with it in their lives and have more to give back. So I do notice my invisible studio, because I can't see. I do feel I kind of got into it more and it was easier. And I'm sorry, I didn't even really think about how it would be to lead something like this. I have another one I will do next week where I present a picture, and it's another sort of emotional growth experience. But I wanted to start off with the cube because I find it interesting and entertaining, and is a way of me giving back to the artist community. So as I said, I have another intention for this. I see myself doing this maybe on Saturdays. I would like to do sort of like art history. You can tell by my little storyboard thing there that I love art. I love art history. I have credits towards an art history degree that it didn't make much sense for me to finish it. Whole other story. But uh, I have an intention of doing like sort of masterpiece Mondays. So I look forward. I'm going to try and do that on Monday morning. I have these on Saturday. And even though Twitch doesn't monitor or count watch parties, I really on Thursdays, because I tend to have a big gap of time in my day, I'm thinking about doing like watch parties with, like last week or so, I did one on the girl with the pearl earring. Some of them are, they're fictionalized accounts or they're hypotheses. But I'd like to. There's so many movies, and even on the Amazon that we could watch about artists' lives and about art and art history. So I'm going to do those on Thursday. I hope. I'm not sure about the schedule, and I am going to get back into actually producing art. I I am embarrassed to share my art. Honestly, I am nowhere in any shape or form close to any of the people that I see on Twitch. Mine is just elementary. Um, However, I have an intention, as I said, and I have joined it's called the Milan Art Institute Mastery Program. And its big goal is to take people with no artistic experience to some artistic experience, or some people have a lot, to take us in a year-long program to being a professional level artist. Now, this all sounded great. I was going to pay for the mentoring group for one-on-one mentorship, and then all of a sudden, I had items that I'd had in storage for 4 years were dumped on me like a month ago in my art lanai studio, and I cannot even walk around my lanai. And it was too chaotic for me to think about putting it all away and creating art, and also still running my private practice, and also still recovering from surgery. It's too much for me. So I chose to put away a lot of the items over the last month. I have some pictures I'll show, and I'll show my almost done art studio. But I do believe that this week I'm finally at a point that I'm going to start producing art again, both drawing and oil paintings. I have two oil paintings that are started that I want to either, I think I can just pick up on the one, and I want to do art. So those streaming, I don't have the capability quite set up yet to have the overhead one the way that lots of Twitch artists have. So I'm just going to do the best that I can do. And hey, honestly, it's almost like it's worse than being probably naked in front of a camera, because these are my very, very elementary skills. I don't have the talent, and I know it's not all talent. I know people work very hard at it, and I will be working hard. But I do hope it's inspirational to people to say, hey, look at this, mature woman who I'm getting right near the end of my child rearing ages. I have one who's graduating from USC next week, and my other one just finished his first year of community college and will be going into a trade school. He will be 18 next month. So my responsibilities are going down a bit. They just change. We all, parents know this. You're never quite done. But that's about me. I look forward, like I said, if you want to send me any ideas or thoughts of what I could have done better, if the sound was horrible, I'm open. I don't take things to heart. I really don't take them personally. And anything to make my stream better, because I have so enjoyed getting to know people through the communities and through the artists who are kind and brave enough to stream. I thank them all, and I'm inspired by all of them. So I will bring today's to a close. I thank you so much if you've stayed through this, and for your grace. Mahalo and aloha.